On our planet, there seems to be an infinite number of beautiful places one can visit, with an equal number of spectacular things to admire. It requires nothing more than a curiosity to observe what is all around you. The miracle of nature manifests in countless ways, from breathtaking vistas to the simple movements of a common heifer. The purpose of this program is to present you with the extraordinary diversity of our miraculous blue planet so that you can discover these things for yourself. Today's journey in search of incredible miracles of nature begins in the Canary Islands. Lanzarote is of a volcanic origin. Volcanic activity created a fantastical landscape, similar to that on Mars. On Gran Canaria, we will witness a traditional harvest of a crop that has been brought to the rest of the world from here, sugarcane. We will wrap up today's episode in the Moroccan province of Guelmin, home to a nomadic tribe whose inseparable companions are camels. The foamy waves of the Atlantic Ocean wash the shores of Lanzarote, one of the Canary Islands belonging to Spain. The island owes its unique natural characteristics to a series of volcanic eruptions between 1730 and 1824 that completely changed the landscape. The island is predominantly a red-brown desert made of igneous lava. It is hardly surprising, then, that the landscape is often compared to that of inhospitable Mars. The landscape icon of Lanzarote is the Montañas del Fuego, meaning fire mountains. These mountains are literally an open textbook on volcanology. The bare landscape offers very little moisture, and almost nothing grows here apart from a few endemic types of succulents and lichens. While the people of Lanzarote literally walk on hot ground, there is currently no threat of more volcanic eruptions. A few meters below the Earth's surface, the temperatures reach as much as several hundred degrees Celsius. For centuries, the local people have been fighting bravely against heat and insufficient moisture. The round shapes in the glacier Valley are not volcanic craters, but artificially built vineyards. The tradition of creating Malvasia in the Rubicon region is some 300 years old. Lanzarote is even more famous for its cheese production than wine cultivation. The cheese is made from goat's milk because goats are capable of surviving on the very sparse vegetation available here. Some types of the renowned local cheeses ripen up to 2 years. Most, however, are consumed immediately or the second day after being made. The local cheeses are well known for their earthy taste, where the heat of the climate and the moist ocean winds blend. The cheese is made using sea salt, and the rays of sun blaze the landscape daily. While fresh water is scarce all over Lanzarote, there is an abundance of seawater all around. In the Hanaubio Bay, sea salt has been extracted from the ocean for centuries. The method remains unchanged. The water is poured into shallow vessels, and the sun takes care of the rest. The The locals have learned to make use of the sun as well as other sustainable natural resources. Most of Lanzarote's demand for electric energy is met through windmills. Teguise, the island's ancient capital, has not changed much. The way of life remains very traditional. Cockfighting is an integral part of it, and the famous cockfighting school is in Teguise. The sharp spurs of the colorful warriors must be covered during practice because they could hurt or even kill the opponent. This tradition may seem cruel to some, and it is. But nature has made sure that the cock's instinct is to fight. While the landscape of Lanzarote is fascinating, life here is tough. The youth leave for cities or the mainland in search of a more comfortable existence, and the long cultivated terraced fields lie fallow. Slowly, the harsh nature claims back what the farmers have taken from it centuries ago. Cacti are not grown on Lanzarote only to please the eye. The vast opuntia plantations make it appear to be somewhere in Mexico, which is understandable, since this is where the opuntia was imported from. Opuntia is usually grown for its sweet fruits. This is not the case on Lanzarote. Here, the cochineal is bred on it. Larvae of this insect contain the natural dye carmine, used in cosmetics and also in the food industry for the manufacture of lipsticks or as the colorant in Campari. The larvae are gray at first glance, but if crushed, the color appears. If the label on a product states E120 colorant as an ingredient, it most likely originates from these insects. Thick clouds are accumulating above another of the Gran Canaria Islands, Gran Canaria. In its name, there is the adjective gran, meaning big, but in diameter it measures less than 50 kilometers. Gran Canaria, similar to Lanzarote, is of a volcanic origin, but here, volcanic activity ceased much earlier. The uncompromising waves of the Atlantic Ocean break against the majestic cliffs, just as they did in 1492, when Christopher Columbus stopped by here to replenish the supplies during his famous exploration journey. The landscape on Gran Canaria is much more malleable and richer than that of Lanzarote. Fresh water is not abundant, but there is a little more of it available here, and so Gran Canaria is by far the greenest of all the Canary Islands. Very little information is known about the Guanches, the natives of Gran Canaria, who lived here as far back as 1,000 years. There is proof that the Guanches dwelt in mountain caves. The caves maintain a pleasant temperature even when it is excruciatingly hot outside. The Guanches used caves like Cenobia de Valaron to live in, but above all, they used them to store food. Many of the locals still live in small houses adjacent to the mountains, and their rooms were carved by bare hands of their predecessors. Beneath the tiny bell tower, there is a church consecrated to the Virgin de la Cuevita, the Virgin Mary of the Cave, carved in rock. Legend has it that it was once upon a time discovered in the thicket. The most important symbol of Gran Canaria are not caves, but a tree protected by the law. The Canary Island pine is endemic, therefore it is only found here. These pines absorb all the moisture they need from air. It is a sort of camel among trees. It's capable of accumulating more moisture than it requires immediately, and as such, it survives long periods of drought on the inhospitable slopes of Gran Canaria. The timber of local pines is very hard and so resists all kinds of pest attacks. This characteristic is welcome in wood carving. The older the timber, the more resin it contains. The resin gives the wood a reddish hue and adds to its hardness. An ingenious water filtration device is also made from the Canary Island pine. The water drips through a bowl made out of porous stone, which cools it and maintains its freshness. An important local crop is caña, sugarcane in other words. Although it's now being cultivated only on a small area of the island, it was first imported to America from the Canary Islands. In sugarcane cultivation, it is necessary to carefully remove dry leaves and bad stalks that have not grown properly and could slow down the growth of the healthy ones. The hard labor involved in sugarcane cultivation was the reason why sugar refineries were moved to America. Sugarcane is harvested manually here, unlike in America, where sugarcane fields are burned. Stems as high as 5 meters are chopped and harvested by hand. The favorite drink, guarapo, brought from America, enriched Gran Canaria in return. It is easy to make. Freshly pressed sugarcane juice with mint leaves added to taste and to lessen the sweetness. Gran Canaria is windy, and so banana or tomato plantations must be protected using foils so that the gusts of wind do not damage the plants. Local bananas are well known. Cutting their flowers is an important task because it has a considerable effect on the final taste and appearance of the bananas. While in farming it is a curse, the strong wind is a blessing for the local wind power stations. It often tears off the protective foil and damages the crops. This is not the Sahara. Although the sandy dunes of the southern part of the island do resemble it, It goes without surprise, since Africa is a stone's throw away. The wind forever moves the sand, changing the appearance of the dunes and covering the occasional footprints we might make. The beaches that 3 million tourists visit each year are also in the south. Most of the visitors are content with crystal clear waters and sandy beaches. The other natural wonders of Gran Canaria usually go unnoticed. There was no Cesar Manique on Gran Canaria to ensure that such an enchanting island doesn't become a uniform tourism resort in which the fascinating and unique natural phenomena slowly disappear. With the setting sun, we bid Gran Canaria goodbye. We now travel to the Moroccan province of Guelmin, which lies in the very south of the Moroccan kingdom. Guelmin, the land of nomads and camels. This is where the world's largest desert, the Sahara, touches the Atlantic Ocean. Even though the original nomadic way of life disappears slowly, many still live as their predecessors did. They traverse the desert with their leather and fabric tents. Each family has dromedaries, single-humped camels in addition to their tents. After humans, the Arabs have long considered the camel to be Allah's greatest creation. The biggest camel market in Africa takes place in the capital city, also called Guelmin. A white camel is worth the most because it has a particularly well-developed sense of orientation and memory. A white camel is a must at the front of every caravan. A black camel, which is heftier and stronger than other camels, is also in great demand at the market. An adult camel weighs around half a ton and costs some 10 to 15,000 dirhams, which comes to about $2,000 to $3,000. The purchased animals are not handled with much consideration. No wonder. A camel is a calm but very stubborn animal. A little further north, there are Punta plantations. Here, they are grown just for their tasty fruits. Initially, mostly wheat was cultivated here, but it didn't do so well. Many farmers, therefore, left the region. The opuntia, which forms the basis of the region's economy, is slowly bringing the farmers back. The fleshy opuntia leaves are also utilized. There is not much else in terms of vegetation, and so chopped opuntia leaves are fed to livestock. The Atlantic winds also influence the climate in Guelmin. The winds have chiseled the granite rocks in the Tafrot Valley into fantastic shapes. This rock, standing tall above Berber houses, is named Napoleon's Hat because of its shape. Mountain goats and sheep graze below the hat. Grass is scarce, and so they eat mostly the arganu trees. Healthy trees live 150 to 200 years and do not grow anywhere else than here in the Moroccan mountains. They bear nuts all year round. The goats living in such harsh conditions find a valuable nutrient in these nuts. It is so vital that the goats have learned to climb the trees to reach them. Arganu nuts are also an important crop for the local people. The women press an expensive oil, commonly used in cosmetics, from them. The nuts must firstly be rid of their fleshy skins. They are then beaten open, and the roasted cores are poured into a manual stone press from which a thick substance is acquired. It is then soaked in water, and dry matter used for feeding domestic animals is condensed out of it. What remains on the bottom is the valuable oil. In Guelmin, too, the waves crush with enormous force against the rocks. Some of the breakers turn over fishing boats and wash them ashore. The loveliest place on the coast of Guelmin is a place called glacier. A truly unique phenomenon is found here, a rock made up of granite and red sandstone. Waves and sea currents have chiseled the sandstone on the almost 8-kilometer-long beach. Everything we've seen today proves that even the smallest things may be miracles. As the sun sets beyond the horizon, so we too bid the Guelmin coast goodbye. Our journey to the miraculous nooks of our planet comes to an end for now. On the next exploration of our compelling and bountiful planet Earth, we'll go to Mexico and the Caribbean. In the Mexican province of Veracruz, we'll encounter marvelous orchids and learn a thing or two about vanilla. On the Cayman Islands, we'll delight in the splendor of abundant marine life and meet the reptiles that gave the islands their name. That's all right here on Miracles of Nature. We hope you'll join us.